What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and major economic warnings coming out. I've got some video footage to get you caught up on as we're hearing our economy, it's not looking good, and we're hearing that stimulus checks, well, they might be needed here very soon. I'm going to get you caught up on all the latest. This is your breaking news stimulus check update and stimulus package update. Now, first up, you guys, take a look at this stimulus checks, pandemic stimulus checks, the good, the bad, and the to be determined, which is a fourth federal level check to everybody in the nation. We're hearing calls for $2,000 stimulus checks. Now, we've had a petition signed by over 3 million people saying send out monthly reoccurring checks. And we've heard Bernie Sanders recently come out and say, Democrats, change your direction if you want to win in the midterm elections. And he said, President Joe Biden, keep your promises. And he's been saying this for a while, saying, keep the promises of those $2,000 checks that were promised in those Georgia Senate runoff elections. And we're hearing they might be needed with some of the economic news coming out. Take a look at the headlines in the past 24 hours, you guys. The Fed may have to do something it hasn't done since 1994 to tame inflation, and they're talking about interest rates cranking up at some pretty extreme levels. I'm going to get you all the details. Stocks crushed as recession jitters jolt the trading, and yes, we're hearing we're pretty much going to be going into a Federal Reserve induced recession. It is going to be necessary to help combat this record high inflation. Interest rates are going to be increasing. Quantitative tightening, QT, is going to be taking place here very soon to slow down the rate of inflation and our economy, and it's going to have some pretty aggressive impacts. Stock investors start to bet that the Fed will tip the economy into a recession, and why Biden's bet on rapid economic rebounds may backfire as, we're hearing that this is not going to be recovering as fast as they were hoping. So you guys, I'm going to dive into all the details for you as to what they're saying. We've got video footage covering everything that they're expecting to unfold. And let me know your thoughts on this. We're hearing that stimulus checks could help out during this time as it is going to be contributing to inflation, but just a little bit, but only if they issue new funds. If they take existing funds just sitting there and they redistribute them, repurpose them, which the president can do through executive orders, well, it wouldn't add more so to the debt and would help out people pay for this record high prices and inflation. Let me know your thoughts, but take a look, you guys. Pros and cons of stimulus checks very quickly. Just going to read the titles for you. Pro, it kept the economy out of a deep recession, helped people get money in their hands during this pandemic. Cons, it likely did help spike inflation. They're saying it wasn't the main contributing factor, but it was a contributing factor. Pros, it kept 11 million people out of poverty. We're hearing that it was the number one provision to do so, and right now it's actually still the most popular provision that there is. 80% of people say they support a fourth federal level check. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, con, may have kept millions out of the workforce, and they're talking about those unemployment checks along with stimulus checks, saying people were not incentivized to get back out there and help out the economy. And pro, it did boost bank accounts, savings accounts, reduce credit card debt levels. However, they're saying con, the government took on trillions in new debt, which we're going to be feeling the impacts of, and we're feeling right now. Now, also, you guys, let me know, should we do a fourth check to help out people at this time, or do you think we should be done with the checks? Let me know your thoughts, you guys, but wait till you see the video footage of what they're saying is coming on the horizon for our economy with everything that's unfolding right now, as the Federal Reserve is saying, we're going to have to do a couple things that are going to hurt, but it's going to be necessary overall for the good of our economy. So let's go ahead and dive right in and get you caught up on the latest. As you guys know here in the channel, this might not be the news you want to hear, but I always make sure that you just know the latest so you're aware of what's taking place. I cite all my sources in the description down below. I put them on the screen. I share it directly, read it for you right off of the article so that way you know what's the latest, and I'll always make sure that you're up to date so we can prepare for whatever's going to be unfolding. As we're hearing, the economy, it's not looking good. But you guys, let's dive right in and get you caught up on the latest. Now, if you appreciate the content, the updates, keeping you up to speed, don't forget, take a quick second, smash the like button for me. Helps out the channel a ton. Thank you so much. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If you'd like to stay up to date, it's totally free. Why not? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. I'll let you know everything going on. If you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3, and consider joining my second channel, Steve Ram Finance, to learn about growing wealth in personal finance. But with that being said, you guys, let's take a look at this video footage and let me know your thoughts on everything and your thoughts on fourth federal level checks.
Just moments away from the opening bell, and the markets are already in bad shape as they kick off the week. The Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P all dropped on Friday, marking Wall Street's worst week since January. It comes after we learned consumer prices jumped 8.6% compared to this time last year, signaling inflation isn't going away anytime soon. That is ramping up pressure on President Biden to act in any way he can, with the president blaming the war in Ukraine as the single biggest cause of high prices. The White House released this three-step plan over the weekend to fight inflation. Joining us now, Politico White House reporter and Morning Joe senior contributor Eugene Daniels, also with us, columnist and editor for the New York Times Dealbook and co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Eugene, let's start with you. What more can you tell us about this three-pronged plan coming from the White House?
Yeah, so this White House sees inflation as its domestic issue, the biggest issue they have, and it just is, right? When you talk to anyone in the country, voters, whether you talk to members of Congress, lobbyists, members of people who actually work at the White House, they're constantly talking about rising prices. They're constantly talking about how expensive gas is, how expensive milk is at their grocery store. So what the administration is hoping to do, especially this month, was kind of push with a huge messaging push to, one, explain why prices are where they are, and for the White House, explain why and what they plan on doing for those issues. And so this three-pronged plan that they have and that the president's talked about is bringing down the deficit, focusing on that, kind of allowing the Fed to do whatever it needs to do in this and stay independent. That's something that they said was very important to them and the president because of the Trump administration, where you constantly saw then President Trump kind of attacking the Fed, but then also reducing costs for Americans. And so that's childcare, that's healthcare. What's really interesting on that last point, that is a lot of what Congress was planning on doing with the Build Back Better agenda that they had planned to do at the end of last year. There hasn't been much movement on that, right? We've seen Congress move on from that issue. And so I was at a briefing with a couple of reporters and a senior administration official on the economic side on Friday. And I asked them, I said, one of the things about childcare, for example, that doesn't seem like it's on the table for you when the Build Back Better agenda, if it comes back, were to come back. Joe Manchin has said that's kind of a non-starter for that reconciliation bill. They try to stay out of it, but they know that that is going to be something that's very difficult. And what you've seen with this administration on inflation, one of the reasons I think that they're having such an issue on the messaging is at the beginning they tried to explain it away as transitory, as temporary, and that's not the case, and it hasn't been the case. There was talk of whether we'd hit peak inflation. That is also not the case. And so now they're working at just figuring out how they can explain to the American people, this is what we're doing, because they know there's not a lot that the White House can do on this issue. And so there's concerns about the political aspect of this as we head into the midterms, but also the larger implications for the entire rest of this term for this White House and the kinds of things they're able to do. Because if people feel, because this is about how people feel, if they feel like everything's so expensive, because it is, if they feel like there's no hope for how much money they're able to spend on their families, they're not going to vote for you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Eugene Daniels, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. And Andrew, when I see the president or any politician coming up with a three-point plan on how they're going to curb 8.6% inflation, when you have 2 years of pent-up demand, you have a war raging on in Russia and Ukraine that's influencing food and energy prices. You've got, of course, supply chain problems and still the specter of China coming on and pushing that demand up even higher. I just kind of laugh. I'm sorry. There are a few things they can do on the margin, but what the hell can the president or Congress do?
This is the ultimate problem. There is very little they can do, and what's going to happen over the next couple of months, and we're seeing it today in terms of how the market is already reacting. If the Federal Reserve does what it is supposed to be doing, which is increasing interest rates to try to tamp down inflation, what are you going to see? You're going to see a lower stock market. So you're going to see headlines that show red on the screen. What are you going to see? You might eventually see lower housing prices. We haven't gotten there yet. The question is, do all of those lower prices flow through to lower prices at the gas pump, lower prices at the grocery store? And it may not happen that way. It may be that you see the stock market fall first, then you see the housing market fall, and then you see things like gas and other things come down. So it's going to be a bit of a slow motion situation if they have success. And that's success. That's the hardest part to even think about, which is success is a lower stock market. Success is a lower housing market. And yes, success is a lower gas prices and food. But it's going to take a very long time. And again, all of those things are mostly going to happen as a result of the Federal Reserve, not the White House. And it's very hard from a messaging perspective to say, hey, it's not us, it's those guys over there. And those guys are doing their job. And it looks worse, at least temporarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Tamika, what president wants to be the president that said, yes, I forced the Fed to jack up your interest rates because that's
make it harder.
That's difficult as well. But again, this is a problem not only that we're facing here in the United States. This is a problem that policymakers are having to face all over the world. You've got Great Britain, higher inflation rates, and we have higher inflation rates in Europe from the Netherlands all the way to Poland. So this is a global
I think Joe
crisis.
Biden needs to level with the American people and give them a lesson and what's going on with the global economy. The White House coming out last Friday on our show saying this is our number one priority. You can't do anything about your number one priority. If you could do something about your number one priority, then make it your number one priority. But there are things you can't do. And I think you're giving the Republicans just, obviously a great bullseye on this issue if you plan to take it on as your top priority.
Well, I mean, Andrew, this requires an explainer, doesn't it? This requires the president to say, okay, listen, not only is it the war, it certainly is the war, and it's this percentage of the war.
Situation in China.
It's a situation in China. We have massive supply chain problems because China shut down their economy. We have $2 trillion that was sitting on the sidelines after a couple of years of COVID. All of these have added, including, yes, too much spending on the Democrats' part, too much spending on the Republicans' part.
As you said, invite some Republicans in.
Yeah, invite some Republicans in.
Talk about solutions.
Give us your idea. We'd love to hear how you're going to cure inflation in 3 easy steps, right?
And that's the messaging issue, which is maybe you do invite the Republicans in because they're not going to have a better answer either. The question is, does the voter come this midterm? And then you got to think about 2 years later, does the voter say, I'm going to give you a pass on all of this. I know your hands were tied, or do they blame you anyway? And that's the hardest part about this.
So there you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Now we're hearing the vast majority of voters are saying he is not going to get a pass. There is less than a third of the nation that approves of the president's performance so far, and their number one top concern is the state of the economy, which they're saying is going in the wrong direction. Now, I mentioned this to you in previous videos. How can President Joe Biden turn this around? Well, a lot of people are saying, send out the checks. Now, we will see. I will keep you up to date here on the channel. But you guys, that is the latest. And as always, I'll be sure to keep you up to date. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you made it this far and you haven't already, don't forget, take a quick second, smash that like button for me. If you appreciate the content, keeping you up to speed on everything going on, I'll let you know what happens with Congress, stimulus, everything unfolding, our economy. And if you want to stay up to date and you're not already a part of the viewing community, the Ram Fam, what are you waiting for? Come join. It just takes a second and it's totally free. All you got to do is smash that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. If you got specific questions for me, I'm easy to get a hold of directly. Hop onto Instagram, shoot me a DM at SteveRam3. Consider joining my second channel, Steve Ram Finance, to learn about growing wealth and personal finance. And also keep an eye out for a comprehensive list of all checks on all levels, states, counties, cities, so that way you don't miss out on anything. But with that being said, you guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.